And this is a competitive game of area control that uses a modular board with elevated terrain to separate the board into ground and roof regions. In this game, players are each going to be playing as their own individual faction, and each faction is going to be controlling their own set of units and starting out with different action cards, a unique leader with its own special ability, as well as access to a specific drone. And there's a few different drones in the game, with each of them being associated with a specific faction, but that drone does not belong to that faction. These drones can be used by any of the players at the table, and players will be able to gain cards in order to gain control over the different drones, but each faction just starts out with more control for one of these drones. And the game plays over 4 rounds, where players will be playing cards from their hand in order to perform the different actions available in the game. And one of the things in this game that I think makes it really interesting, and one of the reasons that this one is my own personal pick of the week, is the way that the scoring works in this game, because there's a few different ways to gain victory points, but the most interesting way is through the mission cards, because there's going to be a whole bunch of mission cards drawn at the start of the game, and then you're going to have 2 assigned to each round. This means that every single round you're going to have different objectives that you're trying to complete in order to maximize your victory points, but then it also means that every single game you're going to have a completely different combination of these goals, making every gameplay completely different than the last. These goals could have all sorts of different objectives, like having a certain amount of resources, having a certain amount of influence out on the board or in specific regions, or having control over specific colored bases. But within each round, players are going to be playing their action cards onto their own personal player board. And you're going to be playing 2 of these at a time, and this is going to be happening 3 times within a round, so you're actually going to have 3 different action phases within each round. And some of the actions available might also require you to have control of the region that you're performing that action, but you can do different things like deploy or move workers and drones out on the board. And of course, you'll want to do that to gather resources, which is one of the other actions, but also to gain influence in a region. Because of course, in order to control a region, you have to be the faction that has the most influence there. The players can also perform a build action, which allows them to build things like a refuge in order to spawn units in that specific location, or an elevator, which allows units to move quickly up and down the different elevations, or even build bridges across the elevated terrain. Like I said, there are a bunch of different action cards that you can choose from, but you're only going to be starting with a set amount, so if you want to get more into your hand, you can actually play one of your action cards face down, which will kind of forfeit you one of your actions, but doing that will allow you to gain a new action card into your hand, which you can then play immediately on your next action. But as I said, there are 3 action phases within a single round, and on your first action phase you're just playing 2 cards. The second and third phase go very similar to that, where you're just playing 2 cards, but during the second phase you're also able to unlock one of your upgrades if you meet the requirements of that upgrade. And then on the third phase you're also able to interact with the different mission cards in order to gain more resources and victory point potential. And the game continues like this for 4 rounds, and players are going to be gaining victory points for the different regions that they control, any of their upgrades that they're able to unlock, as well as the resources that they have remaining in their supply. Then you're also going to be gaining points from the different market and goal cards that you're completing throughout the game, and that's going to be where the majority of your points are coming from. And one thing to note about this game is that it is an expansion and a reprint, and this is a fairly pricey game, so if you are interested in this one, I do recommend trying to try it out for yourself if you have the opportunity. I do believe there is a TTS for this one as well, so if that's an option for you, you can always try that. But this is also a game that's been getting glowing reviews, so if you are interested in this one, I do have links down below.